camera, can you focus? Can you focus? I'm trying to focus on this podcast and the intro. And you're just like, blah, 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 blah. Hello. Hi. Hello, hello, hello. And welcome to the Pixelated Sausage Show. Hi. Hi, how are y'all doing? Hopefully well. I'm, of course, your host, Mark Kuznez. I've got some games to talk about as I fiddle with this pen, including Eternal Strands, Helskate, Orcs Must Die, Deathtrap, and Agent Fall. And that's pretty much it. News happened, I'm sure, but what happened, I can't remember. It's been a bit of a blur. I have been working my butt off on Attack the Backlog and second runs, streaming a whole bunch, but also working towards a workflow that will allow me to release Attack the Backlog weekly from here on out. I took this last weekend off as one final break before we transition to the new format, the new layout of the video episodes. All you audio listeners who make up a majority, it's a good chunk of you. There'll be no change for you. I'm also thinking about some other things that can make the process even easier. Something that I may not include in future episodes because I don't think anyone really notices it, because I make sure to keep it as subtle as possible. I'm talking about the background music from the game in each episode. It varies from game to game how noticeable it is, and in some cases I want it to be less noticeable, and that's why I'm not sure when I changed the max level, but I lowered the gain even more for it because there are some instances where a game's music is just too distracting and it has to be extra subtle. If it has really heavy rock or metal music, or if it has these wild ebbs and flows and gets really quiet and then really loud, and how do you balance that out? I don't think Audacity has an inherent or built-in levelator that I like. And the stuff I used, the software I used years and years and years ago, or we used when we did Distributed Failure back in the day, some almost 20 years ago, 17, 18 years ago at this point. That software has long been unsupported, and the only way to download it would be through sites that I just don't want to deal with. They're fine, I guess, but it was called CN Levelator, I believe, and that would just basically level out the audio. And I haven't found anything that really does that in Audacity. There could be a plugin, but it makes getting background music also a little annoying. I might still do it because it's not that intensive. It's not that much time, but it would be time saved that I could use towards other things. So it's still something I'm looking into and what I want to do with it. Because the majority of people I ask don't even really notice it, which is kind of what I want. It's especially because I think of audio listeners, and I think of audio listeners using headphones of some sort, whether they be earbuds or proper headphones. And that's how I edit every episode, audio-wise, wanting to make sure that for them, because it'll be more sensitive for audio listeners, that the background music, if there's gameplay audio included like there was in Attack the Backlog, I didn't want it to be too distracting. And I think there are episodes well in the past that was the case. It never was an issue for me because I'm too in it. I'm listening to the game audio, I'm listening to all this stuff all the time, and my own recording, so I just hear everything, and I'm not the best judge with that. So I leaned towards the side of make it less noticeable than more noticeable as I went on making the show. But The workflow, the way everything's going right now with the streaming and the new setup for the video versions, it does make the process a lot faster and easier, which I think is good, because I don't think the show was unique enough to really demand a high quality or high amount of editing. Again, that is something I would like to do in future when this workflow really starts to settle in and it becomes second nature, because right now it's still me changing things up and getting everything working and getting myself accustomed to it, streamlining some of this stuff so it's even simpler and easier, so that I can just drop in things here and there with the, what am I looking for? The default, the layout, the, what do I call them? Template, the template. Creating a template that is easy for me to drop in the content for any given episode and get it done relatively easily. So that's exciting, I think. I just finished Arkham City for second runs. I did Arkham Asylum last week and wrapped up that video. It's in the can, not sure when that'll come out. I'm still trying to figure out how to handle second runs in terms of releasing it. Since Attack the Backlog will be able to be a weekly show now, do I just put it in between and that on that same release date and not exchange, but that's the word that comes to mind right now, instead of a episode of Attack the Backlog? Or do I put it out on a Tuesday, because there won't be a consistency with second runs, because it's not high priority to replay games I've already played and loved in the past, when there's so many games I haven't played even once. So still trying to figure that out. Part of me wants to change Attack the Backlog to Tuesday and then give second runs Saturday or Sunday for release, so that it could be second run Saturdays, second run Sundays, because I like that alliteration. I'm a sucker for that crap. But how much does it really matter? Does it really need, is it going to help? No. It's not going to be in the title or anything. It's just going to be something that I think of myself, where it's like, oh, get excited for this week's second run Sunday. But then also I think about second run and it being a title created and based off of second run theaters, where I would go with my father to see movies for the first time for really cheap, or in some cases a movie I really love, like for instance Brendan Fraser's George of the Jungle, which I saw 3 times in the theater. 2 of those were at the Morton Grove. I don't know if it was the Dollar Theater. It's long since gone away. The only second run theater I could think of that I believe still exists in my relative area is Bensonville Economy Theaters. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's in Bensonville and nobody cares because it's Bensonville. I guess the Pickwick is kind of that, but they've gotten, last time I went there, their pricing was getting a bit, I don't know, more of an indie art house type of setup. That's all my location base, so who really cares? But I also feel like Tuesday is a common day for a lot of theaters to do their cheap tickets. I think Cinemark does it, where it's Tuesdays, all tickets all day are $4.50, something like that. I'm sure it's more now because I haven't been to a theater in years, and I'm not even sure if that was the day of the week. I feel it was either Tuesday or Thursday, and I also don't know if they even do that anymore. But that's all something I'm trying to figure out too, is how to handle second runs. Do I wait until there's a bit of a backlog of episodes and release a second runs once a month? Which means if it's a longer game and there are multiple episodes, you'll get multiple episodes that month. But in the case of something like Arkham Asylum, which was just one episode because it's a short game, so is Arkham City. Surprisingly, Arkham City was shorter than Asylum for me, but that would just be one a month. So maybe that's how I do it. And then that means there will be some consistency with releases. But I'd love any feedback. And of course, if you have comments on anything in general, if there's some news that you'd like me to talk about that I haven't, that I missed, whatever, a new game that came out that you're curious about what I think of it, whether I played it or not, or you'd like me to play it, or something in the backlog, there's a link to my backlog on the site. Or I'll put it in my link tree. I might replace that with a link to Twitch since I'm back to streaming. But either or, on the site and or the link tree, pxsausage.com, you can see a link to my backlog. And you can go in there, color-coded, to let you know if I've played a game, if I've beaten a game, if I've gotten all the achievements. And you can use that as a reference to decide or suggest this or that. But that's a bit of, or the majority of updates regarding the site. Of course, still on Amazingly Baka is bad. It's not bad, it's dead. I'm distracted because my father is using a vacuum cleaner right now, and it's incredibly loud. I hope it's not coming through the mic, but it might, because it's loud as shit in my ears, but I have sensitive hearing, so that is what it is. I wish he wasn't doing it, but what are you gonna do? He got up earlier than usual today. Oh God, emotional baggage. But you know, he's doing well to the people who know and care overall. No recent health scares. So fingers crossed that stays the way it is. All I do is cough now in episodes. I don't cough when I'm doing Attack the Backlog or second runs, but why this one? I don't know. It's just the way it goes. But Amazing Baka is dead. And again, I would like an outlet for anime talking, but it's just a question of what that looks like. I feel like maybe, because I'd like to also watch stuff just to watch it without distraction, not while multitasking. So I just watch anime currently when I am on the treadmill, which allows me to pay somewhat attention, but I would like to be able to, with anime and even movies later on after I get through this giant rewatch I'm doing, to do really in-depth reviews in the future. I want the ability to pause and take notes and provide a really in-depth, thoughtful review, just general coverage, something along those lines for stuff. So I might, when this season is over, do that for maybe Sakamoto Days, because Solo Leveling and the Apothecary Diaries, those are both second seasons. Dr. Stone is season 4, 5, and I would want to go back to the beginning. I might also do that for Solo Leveling and go back to, because I kind of want to rewatch the first season. So that might be something, again, where it's less so a podcast and more so just the tag of all anime content, whatever it may be, whether it's reviews, previews, backlog series conversations, tier list nonsense, whatnot. Any ideas, thoughts on that? I'd love to see those in the comments as well. But yeah, let us get on to what I've been playing. I think that's enough of me talking about this, that, and whatnot regarding the site. So let's get to all of that, starting with Eternal Strands. So this is a game that's been on the radar for a bit, and it's gotten a bit of buzz. I forget the name of the creative lead or the founder of the studio. It's their first game, but it's headed by a former BioWare member, and maybe other former BioWare members, but I think there are a lot of industry veterans on this team. And it is very much so a Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom like. Throw in, what is that game called from Ubisoft? Ubisoft. What was it called? Immortals Phoenix Rising, right? I think that's what it was called, somewhere around there. And the biggest thing about it is its way of manipulating the environment with, one, your telekinesis. You have telekinesis abilities. Then you have fire abilities and frost abilities, ice abilities. You don't have any fire abilities to start from. You can't just start fire, but you can grab these flowers that will explode upon contact, and when you throw them at a tree or some grass, it'll set fire to the grass, set fire to the tree, and then it'll spread like Far Cry 2, the greatest and best Far Cry there ever was and ever will be. So that's one of its big unique elements. But then again, it's very much so like Breath of the Wild or Immortals or any of these action adventure games where you can climb freely, and that feels nice. It's always nice when you're able to freely climb anywhere. You have your little stamina meter. But the weird thing is, I'm pretty sure in every instance where I tried to jump up and climb faster, that what happens when you jump is you fall down, you let go, and you fall back down, as opposed to having a separate button to do that, which was a little frustrating. Visually, it has a nice look to it. It has an almost subtle, cel-shady, painterly look to it. It's very, very, and I don't mean this in a bad way, because I think it has somewhat of a nice look to it, but I don't love it. It looks very, very Fortnite-y to me. And the story starts off, it's very story heavy to begin with. First hour, I played it for a few hours. First hour, it was probably an even 50-50 of story versus gameplay. So about 30 minutes of story, whether that be in-game cutscenes or just back and forth dialogue, which is all voiced, which is nice. It helps it be a bit more engaging, but they throw you a lot of lore at you. This is some world where some kind of darkness or whatever, this veil has surrounded things, and then people built this enclave that is a safe space in it, and you have a group you're part of this group who is trying to figure stuff out, I guess. And I kind of wish that it, instead of being so lore heavy right from the start and throwing you in with this group right from the start, that maybe you were on your own and you were, I know it's a stupid trope and very unoriginal, but you don't have to have amnesia. Never mind. You don't need to have amnesia, but to just be on your own, and then you're coming across these people who will join your group as you play more and more and more. I would have liked that, a bit of a piecemeal as you're learning more about the world and what's going on as well. Because I don't like getting giant lore dumps right from the start. I like a gradual exploration of a world, both in a literal sense from gameplay and from a story, lore, etc. standpoint. But what you're doing in those first few hours is just going to this small little open area, and I think there are going to be other open areas that you can travel to. Nothing huge, no huge open worlds, not one seamless open world. And then you are collecting a lot of resources. You have a very tiny inventory, which means you're going to have to constantly go back to your camp to dump off your resources, then go back out in the world, which is a little bit annoying. And you're exploring these worlds, finding some stuff on your own, but also being sent on missions, whether it be to collect something, find something, learn more about the environment, kind of map it out in a way. The map isn't super descriptive, so I don't love the map. It's just like you're looking at a regular paper leather map, and you're seeing the landmarks on it, but you're not really seeing in depth the past and all that stuff, which I wish you could. Combat, I'm not overly fond of. It feels very light, lacking impact. Enemies sometimes feel like they're just gliding on the ground. There is a generous parry window, which is good because I don't think the dodge roll is great. I don't find it that useful. You can use your powers. You just have 2 at the start. 1 to create ice shards, ice things, so you can freeze enemies or cool off things that are burning. And your telekinesis is a power that allows you to pick up smaller things and throw them around. But it can be a little finicky selecting the thing you want to grab with telekinesis. Something that I think would probably be a lot better with a mouse, with that free movement and super fast accuracy. But the actual fighting with your sword, fighting with your bow and arrow doesn't feel that great. And the biggest letdown to me is the whole fire, ice, telekinesis system. It's really cool in theory, but in practice, I don't find it to be that engaging or enjoyable, or that it just feels like you throw a thing that explodes and then everything goes on fire. And you get damaged by the fire, you get damaged by ice. So you set everything on fire, and then everything around you is on fire, and your path is completely blocked. And you're great, fuck. Now I gotta shoot some ice there to cool it off to open a thing, but the ice doesn't seem to work that fast. So it's just like, oh, this is so tedious, and it doesn't even seem worth it, really. Especially the fire. The fire never seems. You might kill an enemy in one shot if you hit them and they explode, but then you have to deal with all this fire, and it's not like setting fire to something that sets off a trap or barricades an enemy so they can't get through, or if they want to get through, they're going to. It just feels there to be there, but not incredibly useful. It's kind of cool that it's there. It's cool that it's a system that works, that you can have these fires that are moving and feel alive, but then when you step back and really think about it and how you're using it in the game, in combat, because I haven't come across any instance really, when you're doing the tutorial mission in the beginning, there's a section where something is blocked off and you use fire to open up the path, but so far outside of that, I haven't used it for any kind of puzzle solving. So in combat, it just feels like it's there, but really it's not that useful. So yeah, I've played it for a few hours, and all it's really made me want to do is go back and play Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, even Immortals, Phoenix Rising, other similar games. And yeah, that's where I'm at. I've been thinking about playing Breath of the Wild for a while now, though. I'm just gonna hold off until the Switch 2 comes out, hoping that we get. I'm very reluctant to believe that there's a chance we can get any kind of 60 FPS mode, but just a locked 30, because I'm pretty sure it's still not locked on the Switch. Maybe it's locked on the Switch OLED, because the Switch OLED I think is ever so slightly more powerful, but that is what I'm waiting for all Switch games at this point. So there are quite a few Switch games I want to play, but I'm just waiting. And I will buy Pokemon Scarlet. I think that's the last one, when it is confirmed that it's going to run better on Switch 2. But that is, again, Eternal Strands. Next, we have Helskate, which is a skateboarding action game that just hit 1.0 on Steam, on PC. It's just on PC for right now. I played about 20 minutes of this because I don't think it's 1.0. This is a game that was in early access. You could have been playing it as they were developing it. And in what I played, if this is 1.0, if this is what they consider to be a polished version of the game, then I just really don't like the game. It has an okay look to it. It's very, very classic Tony Hawk inspired, where you have, I believe, Helskate to collect in letters in the world. You have high scores to go after and a few other things. I don't think there's any secret tape. And it's very traditional in its type of gameplay. You press, well, I'm on Xbox, so you press the top face button, so Y in this case, to grind. Then flips are on X. On the left button, the right button, which is B, which would be circle on PlayStation, are your grabs. A is your jump, your ollie, up, down on the D-pad or analog stick, manual, so on and so forth. You don't need me to fucking spell out all the controls. But it is a very traditional playing game. But then also on the triggers, you have your attacks, which you do when enemies spawn in and try to fuck you up. And it seems like a cool melding of genres. However, the skating doesn't feel good. There's a weird weightiness to you, and also it feels like, to add on to that weightiness, that the descent of tricks and so when you're doing an ollie, it's a smooth rise to that apex, and then when you start descending back to the ground, it's almost like they just cut out all the frames, and after maybe you're a third of the way down, it just snaps you to the ground. So it just feels like you do your ollie, you hit the peak of your jump, and then you start going down, and then boom, you're already on the ground. And it does it with a lot of things. And there are instances where things are slowing down. It feels weighty in a way that I really, really don't like. And then the combat is super basic so far, not satisfying, not challenging. I've fought a handful of mini bosses, and in multiple instances, they would just get stuck in animations and just kind of glide around and not do anything. And I would destroy them while they're unable to do anything. And there's some other weird little bugs here and there where it just doesn't feel finished. It does not feel 1.0. And so in that, well, I was gonna say 1 hour, and in those 20 minutes, I knew right then and there that I was not gonna be in. And it's got kind of a roguelite-y nature to it, where you're going through these areas, completing your objectives, then you can pick one of a handful of areas to go to next that will either give you a new piece of gear or something else, and then you'll tackle that area. But it doesn't feel like right there are payphones that you can interact with, and then you'll be able to upgrade the base points for a trick or the multiplier that you get with this or that. It just doesn't feel 1.0. It doesn't feel complete. Orcs Must Die, Deathtrap is the latest Orcs Must Die game. This is a hybrid tower defense action game where you place not towers in this case. It's more of a trap-based system. But you're also in the world and can partake in the attacking of the hordes of enemies that are following specific paths. And one of the key elements to it is that you have these open areas that are somewhat large, and you can't play co-op. It's on Game Pass. But you are really trying to, by using barricades, because if something is barricaded but there's a different path an enemy can take, they will find that they will transition to the next closest, shortest open path towards your little shard home base thing that they're trying to destroy to beat you, to make you fail the mission. And what you're trying to do is funnel the enemies to a specific point so that you can really load up on traps on there and take them down, get them into a tight space where they're all taking damage and a lot of damage, and do that as your strategy. It becomes way more cumbersome as you make it into later waves. I think the missions consist of 6 or 7 waves. I completed one mission on my own, and as you're getting into those later waves, they will have a max of 4 different areas where enemies are spawning from. And when you're playing by yourself, it's a lot to deal with. And I feel like it would be easier, though I still think this is definitely a co-op centric game. It's playable single player, but I don't think it's particularly fun single player. But I think what would make single player a bit better is and it wouldn't fit the fantasy theme of it, But if you had some kind of hoverboard or something that allowed you to navigate the world a lot faster, don't let you attack when you're using that device, whatever it may be, but maybe it's a witch's broom. I don't know. Something that allows me to just get around to areas a lot faster so that I'm not wasting time when I see one area is taking a lot of damage or a barricade has been broken and now enemies are going through an area I don't want them to go because there aren't any traps there. And the traps are very much so, it reminds me most of all, because I haven't played an Orcs Must Die game since Xbox Live Arcade, but it reminds me most of the Save the World mode from Fortnite. So what Fortnite was before it decided to go Battle Royale and take over the world and somewhat ruin the industry, where you are creating things to funnel enemies, but then you're also using the traps like spike traps or stuff in the ceiling that'll attack enemies, stuff on walls, and you're trying to set them up in a way where they will take the most amount of damage for the greatest amount of time while also engaging in fights yourself. It also has somewhat of a free-to-play vibe to it in terms of its look and the setup of it. So it is a premium game. There are no microtransactions of any kind to my knowledge. But yeah, it's a game that, and you have 6 playable characters that are that vary in their classes, and they all have a unique trap to them. I believe 3 are ranged, 3 are melee. But I think the ranged enemies, the ranged characters are much better if you're playing solo. But I think it is very much so a co-op driven game. Again, you can try it out single player if you want, and maybe it'll click with you, or maybe you'll like it. You'll like the challenge. You'll like the hectic nature of it and the busyness of it in later waves. But for me, I really wish that when I was starting to deal with 4 different areas, I had at least one other person with me to focus on half of the work. It's all right. And the last one is Agent Fall, which is a super fucking simple side-scrolling shooter platformer that gave me 1,260 achievement points in fucking less than 10 minutes, I think. It's you're just moving to the right. Maybe sometimes you're moving left. You're just shooting enemies as they're coming at you. And there's not much to think about, not much challenge. Doesn't look that great. It's not. It plays fine enough. It is the epitome of an achievement / trophy game. That is the only reason to play it, is to get those achievements and trophies. It's not a very engaging game. I went through the first 2 areas. I'm now in the sewer. I beat 2 bosses that weren't challenging. It really wants to give you a lot of achievements and a lot of achievement points super fast. And if that's what you want, that's what you're looking for, you'll be happy. I don't understand how these little games can get 2,000 achievement points at launch. There's no DLC. Why doesn't everything then have it 2,000? I don't understand it. All right, I don't. How does that translate in trophies? Do you not get the equivalent of double trophies in these games? Maybe you should get an Xbox for those achievements then. Double the achievements. There you go. But yeah, that's Agent Fall. There's nothing much to say about it. It's fine. It's not bad, but it's also a game you'll play for however long it takes to get all the achievements, and then you'll never play or think about it ever again. So, achievement hunters, trophy hunters need only apply. Everyone else need not apply. Anywho, that was going to do it. Another late recording because I've just been so busy. And today, I had a late start today. Oh my God, later than usual. But yeah, that will do it for this here episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. Once again, I am Marcus Nez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There you can get access to a monthly Q&A, the occasional watch party, some fancy Discord roles, a private Discord channel, and the random drop on the Patreon here or there, depending on your tier. Or you could just support me if that is your fancy. I'm also toying with the idea if people care about, I don't know how big of a perk it is to be able to watch episodes early, but I would be able to do that now with this new workflow. If people care about that and you made it this far, leave a comment. But yeah, that is again patreon.com/pxs. In addition to Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, the Twitch, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. That is the letter P, the letter X, sausage.com. But that is it. That is all. Again, as always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed this here episode, and I hope you have both a wonderful rest of your day, a lovely rest of your week, and a wonderful weekend. But for now, adios, arrivederci, bye bye.
It's go time, go daddy.